Modern life is full of stress and worries. The competitive world has given us a challenging life, and many a times we cannot cope up with a fast-paced life, which leads to physical, mental and emotional disorders, which shatter us completely. In the modern world, mental health disorders have become a leading cause of disability globally, exacerbating human health. With the divine blessings of Lord Dhanvantriji, hope lies in Ayurveda. Dr. Navdeep Sharma, a spiritual healer from the city of the Golden Temple. His graduation from Sri Lakshmi Narayan Ayurvedic College, one of the oldest institute in our country, associate with Sri Durgyana Education Foundation. His masters from the University of Madras. His PhD in the role of Ayurvedic herbs in psychological disorders. Listed in the World Book of Records for promoting Ayurveda and developing a chain of Ayurvedic treatment and Panch Karma centers in various parts of the globe.
डॉक्टर नवदीप शर्मा को दुनिया भर में आयुर्वेद जागरूकता फैलाने के लिए सम्मानित किया गया। लंदन में इंडो यूके लीडरशिप समिट में द वर्ल्ड बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स ने दिया उत्कृष्ट पुरस्कार।
लंदन में इंडो यूके लीडरशिप समिट का आयोजन, आयुर्वेद को लेकर जागरूकता पर जोर, द वर्ल्ड बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स ने लोगों को किया सम्मानित।
Commendable Global Recognition Award was received by Dr. Navdeep Sharma and Dr. Monica Sharma on behalf of ND Care Nirogam Private Limited for leading Ayurvedic services at the British Parliament, UK.
ब्रिटेन में बसा भारत का डंका, नवदीप शर्मा और डॉक्टर मोनिका शर्मा को मिला आउटस्टैंडिंग कंट्रीब्यूशन टू आयुर्वेदिक हेल्थ सर्विस पुरस्कार।
Dr. Navdeep Sharma has also been awarded the title of Pranacharya by the Akhil Bharatiya Ayurveda Mahasammellan.
आयुर्वेदिक डॉक्टर नवदीप शर्मा को युवा प्राणाचार्य की उपाधि दी गई। भारतीय आयुर्वेद महासम्मेलन में सम्मानित किया गया। कार्यक्रम में मनोज तिवारी मौजूद रहे।
नवदीप शर्मा को विश्व के सबसे युवा प्राणाचार्य की उपाधि मिली। अखिल भारतीय आयुर्वेद महासम्मेलन में मनोज तिवारी भी शामिल हुए।
Up next, most trusted Ayurveda-based healthcare brand of the year, and it goes to ND Care Nirogam Private Limited. Dr. Navdeep Sharma, Director, to please join us on stage.
देखिए, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी हमारे लिए बड़े ऑनर्ड हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर रहे हैं, बहुत बड़े लीडर रहे हैं और उनका अवार्ड, उनके सम्मान में किए गए समागम में अवार्ड मिलना अपने आप में बहुत मायने रखता है।
Regular panelist on various national and international media channels.
आते हैं कोरोना संदेश।
सभी व्यूअर्स को मैं डॉक्टर नवदीप शर्मा नमस्कार करता हूँ। पिछले 21 वर्षों से दुनिया भर में आयुर्वेद के माध्यम से मैं इलाज कर रहा हूँ और आज मैं देख पा रहा हूँ कि पूरा विश्व आयुर्वेद की ओर इम्यूनिटी बढ़ाने के लिए एक उम्मीद से देख रहा है। सदियों से ही हमारे यहाँ राजा महाराजा चांदी के बर्तनों में भोजन का सेवन करते थे अपनी इम्यूनिटी को बढ़ाने के लिए। तो आप सबके घरों में चांदी की पायल, बैंगल, पेंडेंट, कोई भी आभूषण हो, जिस पात्र में आप पानी स्टोर करते हैं उसमें वो डाल दीजिए। उस पानी का सेवन करने से आपकी इम्यूनिटी जो है वो बेटर रहेगी। शुंठी, मरीच, पिपली, ये 3 हर्ब जो किचन की शोभा बढ़ाती हैं, इनका इस्तेमाल अधिक कीजिए और भस्त्रिका क्रिया अधिक से अधिक कीजिए। 3 चीजों का इस्तेमाल करने से आप हृष्ट पुष्ट रह सकेंगे और कोरोना नामक महामारी को दूर भगा सकेंगे।
Person who is a doctor in Ayurveda, he is designated to work as a surgeon. The person first has done a course of 4.5 years.
Psychologist at ND Care Nirogam, which is known to provide the best treatment for autism spectrum disorder around the globe. As we discuss different topics every week and applying ABA techniques on them, today also for its intervention and broadening our area of knowledge, we will be discussing one most important parameter in autism, which is tactile sensory issue. Tactile sensory issue means that every child has a different area of understanding one particular emotion. So sensory processing disorders are a wide variety where multiple sensory issues are categorized. But tactile sensory deficit is part of one of the broader categories of sensory deficit issues. Deficit, or as a whole, there can be multiple parts of it: hyposensitivity or hypersensitivity to tactile inputs. It involves how the child processes and organizes the inputs of touch which are received from the environment. Only touch factor is included in this issue. Touching different textures can be for some children very overwhelming. On the other hand, some children might not register completely what they are feeling around in their textures. There are broadly two categories of tactile sensory issue. The first one being hyposensitivity. Hyposensitivity includes diminished response to any texture or any touch when given. So for example, if you take your child to a park or any area where there are rough textures, so in a park there is grass, so when your child is touching the grass, the child may not feel what exactly the texture is. Or for example, another example, if a child is touching the mats which are there at your place, they may not feel exactly what the texture is feeling. So they have a diminished response to the touch. Whereas it is also seen in temperature. So your child may not realize if they are touching a hot pan or they are touching extreme cold things because of the hyposensitivity to touch. The second type of tactile sensory issue includes hypersensitivity to touch, which is mostly seen in autism spectrum disorder, which is approximately present in 70 to 80% of children. In hypersensitivity to touch, children may feel overly overwhelmed by multiple things around them. So for example, if your child is wearing shoes, let's say the child is feeling very extreme response from that, is feeling overwhelmed by that sensation. So any small little touch, if they are feeling around on their skin, they are feeling overwhelmed, or they are not able to respond to that and feeling painful sensations. So if given in a layman example, similar, if we are being pierced or we touch any needle, the same kind of response, which is a painful response, our child would be feeling at that time if they are hypersensitive to tactile input. These are the two types of tactile sensory issue. After the types, we come to the causes. There are multiple causes observed in tactile sensory issue, majorly being neurological causes. There are integrative response causes also. First we'll go through the neurological causes. So in neurological causes, the first one is altered sensory processing. So as we also know that each child in autism has different processing. There are sensory processing are also different, emotional processing is also different. So altered sensory processing means that your child is filtering the different responses which he or she is getting from the environment and altering it to his or her needs. So for example, if your child is overly sensitive to different textures, he or she would perceive that in a similar texture. Then we come to the second cause, which is sensory pathway. In sensory pathway, the neural pathway can be perceived different for each and every child. Neural pathway also it includes inhibitory responses and excitatory responses depending on our neural transmissions in the brain. So that too of every child who has autism is different to process. So depends on the individual differences which your child has. After that, the neurological causes, we come to the integrative responses, which is also one of the major causes because of which tactile sensory deficit happens. The first one here being impaired integration. Impaired integration means that on the first hand, that the child, whenever perceiving any amount of input from the environment, is feeling impaired of it. So similar to the mental impairment or intellectual impairment when a child has, they are not able to perceive what is being presented in the environment. Similar in this case, they are not able to perceive what exactly the inputs are. To give you an example, for example, a grass mat is presented to the child is not interpreting that the same textures he or she is feeling, or the skin is not able to feel that texture, the brain is not able to process that there are multiple textures around. Similar to the child who is hypersensitive to something, even just by a small little touch to that grass, the child would be overwhelmed, would start crying, or would feel overwhelmed by the painful sensation which he or she is feeling. Lastly, the cause of tactile sensory issue is also habitual difficulties. Habitual difficulties usually involve situations where your child has become habitual to one particular texture. Habit forming textures such as if till the age of 6 your child has only worn cotton clothes and no other type of a texture like satin or rayon or any other material, a child would be habitual to that cotton, and when a new texture is introduced, the child would habitually not be able to wear those clothes because of the habit which the brain has formed that this particular texture is not very soothing to the skin. So habit formation is also one part of its cause. Now, after we've discussed the cause, we would also like to know that why addressing tactile sensory deficit or tactile sensory issue is important at this stage, especially in autism spectrum. This issue is important to address because it hinders multiple factors of a child's life. Hindrance may come, the first one, in daily life. For example, there are daily life tasks, wearing of shoes. As simple it sounds, it is not very simple for children on the spectrum to do so. Children who are hypersensitive to touch may not feel appropriate when shoes are being worn, though, so they would feel painful sensations with that. Similar, if a child is hypersensitive, he or she may not even feel needles if there are, so painful sensations also they are not feeling. So one part, every day-to-day life tasks which are there, your child may suffer with not coping up with that, eating any specific kind of foods, snacks with hands, your child would be overwhelmed by that. So this kind of situation, when it occurs, it hinders day-to-day routines. Therefore, it is very important to address tactile sensory issue. The second thing why it is necessary to discuss is socialization parameter. Socialization is a part of developmental growth. So whenever we are addressing socialization, if let's say your child has extreme amount of tactile sensory issue, if your child is hypersensitive to textures, if you're taking your child to maybe a park, the child would not be willing to touch the swings which are present, leave behind the interactions which he or she can include while other peers are there. Besides that, if a child is, let's say, hyposensitive to different textures, your child may be laid back or keep touching the grass only in the play area rather than involving herself or himself in the swings or in the social interactions which are present. Lastly, it is also important to discuss this issue because of the emotions which are involved. Whenever we talk about emotions, there are a wide variety of emotions which our brain feels, and when our brain is preoccupied in processing the sensory needs only and catering to them only, the emotional needs which are present, the brain is not able to function properly and address those needs which are very important in overall development and growth. Now, as we've discussed the causes and also why we need to address this particular issue, we'll come to the interventions part, which is easily applicable in your home environments. So interventions are also, there is a little difference in the interventions between the hyposensitive tactile issue which children face and the hypersensitive tactile issue which children face on the spectrum. So the first one which we will be addressing is hyposensitivity to tactile sensory issue. For this particular issue, as the child is not able to feel multiple textures around and not able to register in full capacity, we need to include more and more of textures which are there in the environment and present them and make them play with a different texture so that this issue is speedily resolved. The first thing which as an intervention which we can involve is making a sensory bin. Sensory bin would include multiple textures from hard to soft. I'll give you a few examples. From hard, rough textures, we can include pebbles or small grains which are present, hard grains such as red kidney beans or chickpeas which are uncooked, raw. We can use, so that more of hard textures when we are using and your child is deficit of that, deficit will start fulfilling itself. So in grains also we can use raw rice, we can use semolina, we can even use sand, any texture which is similar to sand like semolina which is readily available in everybody's homes, that can be used. We can ask our child to rub his or her hands, and if a child is not independent, then dependently we need to perform the activity with them. These textures can be provided in the hands as well as in on the child's feet. After grains and all these pebbles and different solid textures, the second thing we can be applying in hypersensitivity to textures can be exposure to natural things such as grass, natural environment we can take our child to, and their barefoot walking we can ask a child to perform, so that more and more of textures when involved, this issue starts resolving. Besides this, the third thing which we can apply is cloth textures. So rough textures and soft textures of cloth such as muslin or jute. Jute comes under rough texture and muslin in soft. So a wide variety of textures can be applied and massages can be given on your child's skin, including your child's hands, arms, legs and feet, toes. All these areas can be covered while giving the massages. While we are rubbing all these textures, we need to make sure that our child is also getting involved in it. It is not solely dependent on the parents, that the parents only have to rub. Sometimes you can always involve your child also to independently start rubbing those cloth textures, so that they also become self-aware about how to reduce their sensory needs. This intervention can be applied for hyposensitivity to textures or touch. Second type of category of intervention we would include in hypersensitivity to tactile exposure. Hypersensitivity, as we already discussed, it is a response where our child is overwhelmed by a small touch also. So whenever even a small little touch our child feels, the readily response of brain is to fight, flee, or fight from the individual. So whenever a small touch or deliberately forcefully you are making your child touch different textures which he or she does not want to, the child's response can be fight, either retaliating from the parent, or flee, so running away from that situation, or after running away the child may escape also from the situation when you are trying to include different textures. So for that, rather than including multiple textures, we need to start with deep compression, which we can provide so that our child's body is calm and composed while performing the activities. After deep compression, the second thing which we can do is controlling the environment. So rather than multiple textures at your place, so there is flooring, there is mats, there are different textures of mat, you are also providing maybe satin, cotton, multiple kinds of clothing textures. You need to control the environment to a level where your child feels comfortable, so that with time, as we are controlling the environment, the child readily starts feeling comfortable around different textures while we introduce them one by one, rather than all of them together making a child very overwhelmed by the situation. So you can remove the uncontrolled variables such as different textures which are available, mats you can remove from the house, or any textures where you feel that your child is not very comfortable in, maybe sofa covers, those also you can remove from the environment, so that we can control the hypersensitivity to touch. All these interventions which I have mentioned, they also have a particular time limit according to the deficit which your child has, or if your child is hypersensitive to any touch. So these need to be discussed from your individual therapist, how much time which we can dedicate to each of these interventions, because for every child the intervention applied is for a different time limit. Lastly, with these techniques, your child may start adapting well to the environment, and this issue might start resolving as you keep applying these interventions. But still, if you have any doubts regarding the timings or any other doubt from the interventions which I have explained, you can always comment down below. Thank you so much for your time, dear parents. Thank you.